discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And this night we got a lot of very interesting updates. Some of updates we saw during the night, and some of them, to be more precise, the results of some updates we got just this morning. And first we're going to start with Kharkiv. During the previous night of the local time, the Russians made a very powerful strike using missiles. According to the sources we have, the Russians attack Kharkiv with Iskander strike, and as a result of that strike, as you can see, the Russians damaged a lot of buildings in residential area. The Russians are saying that probably they will say that they attacked the area with the concentration of Ukrainian forces or maybe some underground facilities, because as you can see according to this video, the strike took place exactly between the buildings. Not the building was attacked, but the area, to be more precise, the intersection of roads between the buildings. So maybe there was some kind of underground command center or something like this. This is the situation that took place in Kharkiv. Some updates are coming this morning. We received from Dunabi, the river between Ukraine, the territory between Ukraine and Romania. The Russians again attacked the territory of another port infrastructure using Heran strikes, and as a result of those strikes, they managed to destroy some local authorities, detachment authorities building, the area where there was some kind of local procedures with the transportation, with like taxes and so on. So currently this territory is closed because the Ukrainians are no longer able to continue their work in this area. Furthermore, there were strikes all over the entire Ukraine. Probably during the day we're going to receive more updates and details about those strikes. Interesting updates are coming from Crimea. The Russians, as a result of clashes on Crimea, not like on the storming assault operation or something like this, as a result of missile strikes that took place from the territory of Odessa in direction of Crimea, in direction of Sevastopol, in direction of ammo depots, warehouses and so on, the Russians were forced to start redeployment process of their fleet. And currently, according to information we have, the Russians removed every single ship and submarine from Sevastopol in direction of two more navy bases in this area. First, the Russians redeployed their fleet in direction of Feodosia, and the second area where the Russians took a decision to redeploy their fleet is the port in the city of Novorossiysk. So currently there are no more fleet, or maybe some local and not so important fleet in Sevastopol, and the entire part, the biggest part of the fleet currently located as far as possible from Odessa and as far as possible from the area that Ukrainians can use to attack with Storm Shadow missiles, Neptune missiles and so on. So the Russians realized and understand the risks they can't risk with the fleet, so that's why they took a decision to remove the ships and submarines from the dangerous zone. And this is very interesting update. Now we are moving to Kherson direction, and today we got significant number of FPV drone strikes from the Ukrainian side. This video is very important, and the main reason why we published this video is to understand the real positions of Ukrainian forces and the Russians in among the Dnipro Islands and Kherson direction. And this is very important because, as I understand, there are very fierce clashes for the islands, and it's very difficult to understand which islands under Ukraine are under Ukrainian control, which islands under Russian control. But sometimes we get some geolocations, mainly with the usage of FPV drones, which allow us to understand the real situation on this territory. I have updated the map, and according to the bombings and FPV drone strikes that Ukrainians made during the previous days, I understand that I have colored this territory as an area under Russian control. At least I have fixed the map. So anyway, we understand that maybe the Russians have some problems in the vicinity of Dachi, and maybe on the islands between Nikolaevka, Kazatska, Novokakhovka, Dnipriany, but the Russians have a very strong foothold in the islands between Kherson and, let's say, Gola Pristan. And we understand why, because if the Ukrainians are able to unblock the islands, of course, then they will be able to include Kherson into the trade routes and to start some trading process, some cargo exchange, because Kherson also have some port infrastructure that Ukrainians can use for military purposes. So to control the islands in the Dnipro, along the Dnipro River, means security for the Russians in this direction. Now we are moving to Zaporozhye area. Today we also got some details and updates from this territory, and the most important one is that according to information we have, the next few days the weather in Zaporozhye is going to be very bad and rainy. That means that we're gonna see some kind of reducing of intensifying of actions in this area, and probably even a freeze of a combat on this territory because for some certain period of time. And this is the reason why the Ukrainians also stopped their offensive operation in the fields between Novoprokopovka, Verbovo in direction of Ocheretovate, also because of very bad weather. Of course, they tried to develop their position somehow from the north to the west, but this just local developments in this area. For example, we got another detail from Ukrainian side how as a result of storming and assault operation, they managed to develop their positions a little bit to the south, along the tree lines on the west of Verbovo, but without any attempts to storm or assault Verbovo itself. The Russians continue bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces in this area. There was like a videos of another artillery strike, but also without any changes on the ground. Some Russian sources, military experts, reported that during the previous night the Ukrainians made at least 3 waves of attack in direction of Nistyryanka, in direction of Kopony, and in direction of between Rabotina and Kopony as well. For those purposes, the Ukrainians were using up to 20 armored vehicles, and that attack started somewhere at 10 p.m. of the local time yesterday on the 5th of October, and this morning we got report results that as a result of those clashes the Ukrainians were defeated, completely defeated. Most of the armored vehicles were destroyed and the Ukrainians were forced to step back. From one side, this is like the update without any geolocations about video confirmations, but during the previous months we also got the same reports from Rabotina and Verbovo when the Ukrainians were attacking, were defeated, and with a significant number of destroyed vehicles and so on. But as a result of those defeats and losses, they managed to establish control over Rabotina. So I won't be surprised if we see some changes on the ground along the combat line during the next week, because Kopony and Nistyryanka are located not so far from Novodanilovka, Novoandreevka, and the Ukrainians still have possibilities to attack in this direction even if the weather is going to be very bad. Also, we got some updates from Rabotina. The Russians continue bombing and attacking the trenches, the gray zone probably between Rabotina and Novoprokopovka with artillery strikes. The Ukrainians tried to concentrate some forces to send some reconnaissance teams, but as a result of artillery clashes, mortar strikes, the Ukrainians can't concentrate significant forces, and so that's why this territory has had no changes since for the previous few days. Now we are moving further to Marinka direction, to South Donetsk direction. We got some updates on this area as well. The Ukrainians realized and understand that the situation in Novomikhailivka is getting worse, and they published another video how as a result of FPV drone strike they managed to discover the Russian position, the Russian concentration of forces, and as a result of that strike that position was destroyed. So we see that I believe that the next few days we're going to see more updates or more details from the Ukrainian side, exactly from the southern direction, because they understand that the Russians got very close to the city and there is just one successful Russian. The Russians will be able to enter the city. So that's why they have, as I understand, they're planning, or they have already redeployed some FPV drone platoons or squads that will main purpose will be to attack and to pin down the Russian forces exactly on the line between Solotka, Stepnoe and Taramchik. When talking about Marinka direction, the Russians continue offensive operation in the city. Today they will publish some assault operation of the Russian forces along this territory, along the ruins. As a result of those clashes, the Russians haven't managed to achieve nothing, but we are using this video just to confirm and geolocate the edge position of the Russian forces in the western part of Marinka. In Krasnogorovka, the Russians discovered another Ukrainian light vehicle, and as a result of FPV drone strike, that light vehicle was destroyed. So just small success on this direction. Now we are moving to Bakhmut-Artyomovsk direction, and today we got at least one geolocation. The Ukrainian sources published the video, the 5th Storm Brigade published the video of offensive operation that they tried to implement in this area. As I understand, this video was published today, but according to information we have, this event took place a long time ago. But anyway, this is like an example of Ukrainian offensive operation when they're using like one tank and few personal carriers. And other Russian sources, for example, reported that as a result of clashes on the northwestern direction of Klishchiivka, the Russians were forced to step back from the tree lines and to get closer to Artyomovsk city as well. So we haven't received even a single geolocated video confirmation, but as I understand, as a result of clashes in this area, the Russians were forced to step back to the north, and currently the Ukrainians have develop their positions along the railways. They continue concentration forces in this area on the north of Klishchiivka, and also the Ukrainians continue concentration of their forces along the railway between Andreevka and Klishchiivka with the purpose to attack in direction of Adradovka, Mykolaievka, and Zelnopolye, Kurdyumovka. So we'll see, but anyway, the weather is not going to ruin Ukrainian plans. There is no such a problem, and if the Ukrainians can continue and complete regrouping, they will attack along these directions and they will try to capture these territories before cold comes. So we'll see. And another, the most important attack, as I understand, can take place exactly along the main road between Klishchiivka and Bakhmut to the southern part of the city. When talking about Siversk direction, we also got a lot of details, a lot of updates from the Ukrainian side and from the Russian side. The Russians continue attacking and bombing the Ukrainian forces along the main road between Siversk and Bakhmut. As a result of artillery strikes, the Russians managed to destroy a few light vehicles, few ammo depots in this area, and as a result of artillery strike, the Ukrainians lost another artillery system, Paladin. So we see that there is like a counter-artillery duels, but for me it more reminds something like just a regular military routine. Very interesting video we got from Privilya, and probably for the first time since the fall of Severodonetsk agglomeration we received at least something from this direction. But the videos were published by the Ukrainian forces, to be more precise, by the 12th Brigade Azov, those forces who protected and tried to defend Mariupol during the Mariupol battle. They published the squad recently was redeployed in direction of Kremenaya forest, and I was very surprised when we got the series of videos how the forces of that 12th Brigade were attacking and destroying the Russian positions, the Russian raiders, the Russian communication raiders, the Russian communication equipment, armored vehicles, supply trucks in the vicinity of Privilya. So this is very interesting because we have already discussed the Ukrainian pattern, and the Ukrainian pattern says that if there is an activity of drones, artilleries, and something like this at one direction, that means that very soon the Ukrainians probably will try to attack in this direction. And this is very important because we remember and we know that the closest Ukrainian position in this area is the city by the name of Belogorovka, that the Russians haven't managed to establish control over after they lost this city during the battle of autumn of 2022. So probably there are very high chances that Ukrainians might try to attack exactly in direction of Privilya and to get as close as possible to Lysychansk agglomeration. This is a possible solution. Tell the truth, the chances are very low, but anyway, everything might happen. Also, the Ukrainians published another video how they were bombing and attacking the concentration of Russian forces on Toretsk salient. As a result of those strikes, there was like a video of massive usage of cluster rounds. As a result of those attacks, probably the Ukrainians haven't managed to deal damage to the Russians because they were able to hide in trenches. But anyway, we see the intensifying of actions from the Ukrainian side exactly on this direction. So we'll see what is going to be next. Obviously, today we're going to receive more details and more updates regarding the missile strikes. For example, yesterday we also got another missile strike from Bogdanovka, another Ukrainian military warehouse. As a result of those strikes, probably a significant number of ammo depot munition rounds and ammo were destroyed. According to the official data, this ammo store it was able to keep around 95,000 of tons of munition, and currently this ammo depot the Ukrainians were using for Western weapon, and very big damage was dealt to this area. Furthermore, the Russians made a very powerful missile strike against the Ukrainian airfield in Mirgorod. Also, this event took place a day ago. As a result of those strikes, the Ukrainians lost also some Su-27s and Mi-29 in this direction. During the previous day, there was also another very bad case. According to information we have, there was a missile strike against the city in Kharkiv area. For now, I haven't added this icon to the map because we need more information. As a result of that strike, up to 50 people, civilians, were killed, and currently it's very difficult to understand who exactly was attacking that territory, or the Russians or the Ukrainians, because both sides tried to blame each other in that attack. And that's it for today.